Good evening and welcome to Crosstalk. My name is Reverend Tom Otieno, and Crosstalk is where we put Jesus in the airwaves and bring the cross into the conversation. The church is on trial. Where has the church been? Why are people so upset about the church? And why is it that the church is being blamed for many, many things? That's our conversation today. I have with me the Reverend Dr. Timothy Njoya from the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, a well-known reformer and activist and a priest of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa. Karibu.
Thank you so much, Otieno, and the viewers.
And we have Pastor Charles Opiyo. Charles is head of the Cyrus community. He's an entrepreneur, he's a mentor, he's a kingdom builder. Karibu, Charles.
Thank you, Rev. Thank you very much for having us.
Maybe we kick it off with the Reverend Dr. Njoya. You were at State House. What did you tell the president?
I'm one of the few people who spoke, but I told him that we are here because we have decided to the State House to really help you come out of hell. Because Kenya now not only is the State House in hell, it has put the whole country in hell with this, I would say, our migrant children. They are now on the streets. I was on the streets, now it's being replicated by the same way. The difference is that we are fighting for principles and values, for democracy and human rights. These people are fighting for jobs, for ajira in the job market. We are not fighting for jobs because for me I had a good job. People like William Mutunga or Kibwana had very good jobs. Some were university professors. Even those who are detained had jobs. We were fighting for principles. Not because we are alienated from the market. We are part of the market. These people are alienated from the job market.
It does seem like the Gen Zs did not understand your move, coming so close at a time when people did not want to associate with the president. So it made the church leaders look like traitors. What is your take on that?
God, he sent Moses to become God to Pharaoh. Here we have a Pharaoh in the State House. and then, not only that, he sent Jesus Christ to go, not only to come and be seen and without having sinned for us, according to Corinthians, but also to die and go, it is said, into hell. We say that in the Apostles' Creed. You are Anglican, you always say it,
yes.
every worship.
Yes.
Why did he say it into hell? According to St. Peter, the book of the letter of St. Peter, he went to hell to redeem those who are dead. If I go to hell to redeem them, as I've done, and I've really also been killed trying to redeem them, that's what Jesus died for. So we went to the State House to say, stop corruption, stop killing our children, let's mourn together with those who are mourning, and that's what we are taught. Even though we may not have lost our own personal child, every child is my child.
That's good. Charles,
yes.
What is your take on what happened? I mean, of course, the perception has been betrayal and things. What's your take?
I think there are a number of things, and I think it's very good today, really, to have Reverend Njoya here, because I think the Gen Z, while their heart is in the right place, they need also a sense of history, because a sense of history brings clarity to what is going on. Like Rev here has told us, they fought for principles, values, which did give us what we have today. If they didn't go, I mean, some of us are old enough to remember Dr. Njoya on the street being battered by police. Some of us are old enough. Those are vivid pictures for us. Yes, that's our reality. And so I think he is qualified to be able to speak into those spaces by virtue of Gen Z can't call him out because he was on the street before they ever knew what the street was. And they can't call him out because he's been able to. But I think we also need, as the older generation, to also use tools of communication, because if people now heard what we've just heard, it brings a totally new picture to what transpired at State House. Having said that, I'll also say not everybody, Reverend, who went with you to State House had clean hands. That's the reality, and that's where the perception has a problem, because there will be those who accompanied you who are enablers.
Who are Judas?
Exactly. They are enablers of the current scenario. And it is them that cause you to be blanketed with that conversation, without, and so if you do not have a voice or somebody like a program like this to then bring clarity to, so that we can say he has heard you, whether or not he has believed you.
Just what do we do with people who are still active in service and are leaders of the church with influence, but whose hands are not clean?
I think the first thing we always say, all of us are men of the cloth, and we say judgment starts in the house of the Lord. See, the thing is, it is impossible for Ahab's chosen prophets to speak conscience to Ahab.
Okay.
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
The church is supposed to be the conscience of the king, not partners of the king, not enablers of the king, not in agreement with the king. And it already delegitimizes them, because if we don't go back, I think the first place we need to go as the church, if we are going to provide leadership, we must first come clean. We must be able to stand up and say, look guys, we dropped the ball here. We should never have allowed us to get here. We should have stood our ground. And I think one of the sad narratives is that there's a narrative in the clergy that we have a government that favors us. No, we don't want a government that favors us. We want a government that hears God. Two different perspectives.
Yes, yet sadly, Dr. Njoya,
yes,
you saw that the church did endorse the president, and the president did say as much, that the church was with him when he came to power. And a lot of celebration around State House, attended by clergy. I know you are not among them, but what's your take? How did that then put the church in the place that we are in now?
Church people are born not by the blood of Jesus Christ. Some people are born by the market. They are creatures of the market, and therefore they went for a share of the market.
They saw an opportunity.
They saw an opportunity for shares into the market. And they use the problem. I don't want to condemn the youth because they have not done true theory. We ourselves went to the market because of into the society, into calling the one party to dismantle the one party totalitarianism.
Yes.
We want to dismantle the Lancaster Constitution because they were given to us by the colonial government. They were colonial instruments. Because Kenya was given independence to guarantee, as a guarantee of stability and the profitability of the British overseas colonial market.
You need to say that again, because you see, you were there. Us guys were not there. We read stories. Please say that again.
I'm saying the Lancaster Constitution was written by Mackenzie of Lancaster University. He was the one who wrote, but it was in the Lancaster House. He wrote, he contracted by the British government, by the Secretary of State that time, to write something that will guarantee Britain, Kenya, as a stable, profitable, continuity colonial market. And it continued so with the Lancaster Constitution, who was not given, the Constitution had nothing to do with, if it did not mention the word people even once. Wow. It was a constitution about the government which was established by the British government.
That's an interesting conversation.
So my sermon was, let us dismantle. I asked Kenyans, I can read word for word on my first sermon of 86 October. I called for us for the people to reclaim their God-given sovereignty. You would have read in Genesis chapter 1, yes, when God created them, it is said to them, Adam and Eve, male and female, both of them, he gave them dominion. He gave them sovereignty. So I told people, can Kenyans reclaim their God-given sovereignty?
There you go.
Because it's God-given. And he created them in his own likeness. He is sovereign. So if you forfeit your sovereignty, you are becoming godless.
Yes.
If you let the state which you have created, which is Akia, with your creature, to take over your sovereignty, you are idolizing the state into an idol. So one of my sermon was about, let's recover, let's create our God-given sovereignty. Write our own constitution, not the one we were given in Lancaster, and they have our own state, which we have. But I'm saying we have, but it has been captured by the market, by the corrupt market forces.
All right.
And we are saying that we want to reclaim it, the youth want to reclaim it. It's tangible. For us who are fighting for intangibilities, which we knew they would be tangible. It bore fruits, tangible fruits. My struggle for human rights and justice, which is an abstract concept, for democracy, which is an abstract concept, have borne tangible fruits. These Gen Zs are my offspring.
Your grandchildren.
Yes, they are my offspring.
Yes.
And I'm very, very happy that they are doing it, but they should also sit down and articulate and attenuate what are the principles they are fighting for, because they have not come with one.
Yes.
Okay.
They are fighting for tangible only, for jobs.
And that's a good place, Charles.
Yes.
The Gen Zs they tend to look at the church as a homogeneous entity.
Yes.
So if one pastor strays,
Yes.
then they say the church has strayed.
Yes.
If one pastor goes rogue, and that's going to happen,
Yes.
pastors are going to go rogue all the time. They started in the time of Jesus.
Yes.
Jesus had a rogue in his disciples.
Yes. Yes.
How do we help the perspective so that the church is not judged harshly,
Yes.
but also we are not also complacent in allowing rogues in our midst? How do we handle that?
Well, first of all, by changing ourselves before we even talk about changing them. You see, we all agree that children do what you do, not what you say. And they've been observing. And this is I often say, this is the most educated generation we've ever had, the generation with the most access to information that we've ever had, and so on. And also the generation that is willing to test and prove things, not accept as it is. Part of our heritage, the Gen Xers, because I'm of the Gen X generation, is really post what Rev is talking about, that came from a colonial mindset, where we were told to do and to be. And we also worked with the mindset that you do not query authority. Authority equaled right. It was never, there was no distinguishing between authority and what is right. And it took a big difference. It took people like the Rev and others to fight and bring the difference between right and authority. And for us to move that within the church structure, the church must also stop selling denomination, selling preservation. We've developed a church system that is more monastic in character. We keep in instead of engaging out. On the average today,
Inbreed.
Yes, I would challenge how many pastors can sit down the Gen Zs and articulate the issues in that constitution the way the Gen Zs are articulating it. Have they taken the time to look at it and then bring a God perspective into it? Those are the questions that need to be asked.
I want to bring you in, Dr. Njoya, because you engaged into politics when church was not supposed to engage into politics.
And I lost my quota for 3 times.
Yes, you are telling me that you are defrocked 3 times.
Yes.
to be defrocked, by the way, viewers, means
and I was killed 3 times.
To be to be removed from becoming a pastor.
Yes.
So the PCA defrocked you 3 times. Now, let me ask the motive question. What drove you into engaging the political class from your pulpit?
Because Luke chapter 4 verse 18, the Spirit is upon me to free the captives, to feed the poor, to care for the sick, and to visit prisoners, and to liberate the oppressed, to give them jubilee. So it is the Spirit of God which led me.
It was very dangerous to your life to do that. So what led you to that?
Was it dangerous for Jesus Christ?
It was.
Okay. So do you want me to be a follower, to be saved? And to be, because I'm saved. So I got saved in when I was just 15.
Yeah.
1956. And I'm saying to be saved means my likeness with Christ being restored. And to be restored and to be saved, we are created in God's own likeness. Christ came to restore it. Because it was foreign, it is called the foreign during Adam. When I become like Christ, I must also suffer like him. So when I'm saying that, why did I why did I enjoy, sorry, not to enjoy, actually, why did I receive my crucifixion? Why did I receive being beaten and being defrocked? Because I was carrying this, Jesus told me also to carry my own cross because he carried, when he was human, he carried his.
But you must have, sir, you must have reflected and knew that this was going to cost you your life.
Of course.
So at what point did you make that decision to jump into the fray?
Yes, I jumped into the fray because people like Njoya was in the government. He was not a jobless man.
And he was killed?
He was killed. Like many other people were killed. Even Ouko was a cabinet minister. So the system that could kill its own. Now it is not killing its own, it is consuming our children. It is killing our children. Those who were like boy at that time now are the most corrupt. They are the most corroborative of the system the way it is. Imagine how many vehicles they are driving, how many they hire their own people without jobs. Like they hire jobless people to remain jobless and pay them. You see, they are jobless, but they earn money. They are jobless in the streets. The young people who are living in university, they have no jobs. You know, I think I was very educated, more educated than these Gen Zs. But I didn't consider myself have a job.
So it wasn't comfort you were fighting for?
It was not comfort or job. But the only thing I'm not saying that, but I was entitled to a job and I had it.
Yes.
They are entitled, like me, by God, to have a job. They are entitled, it's their human right to have a job, to be engaged in productive services. Okay. Not only for self-gains, but to develop the country for their own children also. We had jobs, but we forfeited our jobs for the sake of our country.
Something
now
higher.
These people are not forfeiting jobs for the sake of the country. They are risking life like us for the sake of this country. Okay. Yes.
How should the church engage? On the one side, the church is being pulled. The president wants their support. We know that there are people who have received money, pastors, bishops who have received money. And I want you to speak into how wrong is that and how right is that. Is it wrong to invite a politician to give and they sit in our congregations anyway and they give? So how should the church engage? Because this is very dicey. We have heard how the generation of Timothy Njoya engaged. They had a higher value, they had comforts, they were not lacking, and they were not going to look for politicians to give them anything, but there were higher values to fight for. How should we engage?
I think the first place is everyone with conflict of interest should step away from that conversation completely. There's no whitewashing that.
How do you define conflict of interest?
I can define conflict of interest just by your tone. Rev has just told us his tone with the president. It was clear he can speak like that because there's no conflict of interest. But we have others who are trying to placate the nation. That's not the direction. When you're the conscience, if you want to mediate, you can't afford a side. You have to be on the side of principles and values. So we're having people who are trying to placate the Gen Z. The idea of conversation with the president is toned down. That is not a conversation. That is condensation.
So,
yes.
What should they do?
So what they should do first, and this would be my advice if you're listening to me, first we need a master class for pastors to go and sit with Reverend Njoya because of his understanding of the history of the political process and his ability to engage, so that they can have a united, clear front that if they came out, before they spoke to the president or anybody, if they told the nation, this is the direction we want to push this, they need to get the goodwill first to allow them to mediate. So that they can say, this is where we are sitting, these are the issues we have seen, these are the articulations, so this is what we want to bring on the table to be articulated. You cannot go and say, okay, we want to talk to you guys to talk, but it's almost like, at this point, it looks like they are sent by the president to placate. This is not a conversation. So what has to happen? That has to happen, number one. Number two, like we said, anybody who has already been known, you know yourself. If you're truly a man of God, your conscience should prick you. If you know you have conflict of interest, state it and walk away. Even if it is conflict in terms of friendship. This is my close friend. If you can't speak truth to your friend, then this is not the point to speak from. That's the first spot. Because currently, they don't carry the legitimacy yet of arbitration. Not yet. There has to be somebody who carries legitimacy of arbitration.
Okay.
And we need to look among our ranks. The same way Rev said he was defrocked. There was a season I was defrocked in a sense. Because during post-COVID, I asked the question.
We'll come back to that story. Let's take a break. We're taking a break now. Friends, we are talking about the church. The church is on trial during this season of protests. How should the church engage? Have we done right? What are the missteps? You stay on this channel. Stay Crosstalk. We'll be back shortly.
We are living in a lost and broken world, constantly bombarded by messages of hate and atrocities. But with God, we can overcome. Find hope and restoration on the go through life-changing shows on the Family Media app.
And then you will lose yourself and gain the world. And Jesus said, what good is it?
Get to stream Family TV and Family Radio 316 straight from your phone. Catch up on a show you missed or create video streaming playlists by saving and watching videos from our huge variety of shows at your own convenience. Download the Family Media app, available for all Android and iOS users on the Google Play Store and Apple Store respectively. Family Media, keeping Jesus on the airwaves.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. We are talking about the church and the protests and the Gen Z view of the church. Very, very, very serious accusations and indictment of the church. Are we engaging right? Charles Opiyo, you were telling us something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was saying that the season...
And as you do that, you need to also prosecute the matter of Harambes and all that, because it's all in the same vein.
Very good. All right. To begin with, like I said, there was a sense of defrocking post-COVID. I asked the question. When churches were being shut down, I asked, is church an essential service? Because you don't shut down an essential service. So the reality was they were not seen as contributors. Are we a contributing system or just a consuming system? Something has to give. So in that comes to your question about Harambes and everything. First of all, conscience. Let's look at scripture. When Ananias and Sapphira brought their money, Peter was clear, your money perish with you. There is an amount of money we cannot legitimize, we cannot explain away, especially when we know full well the source of that money.
I am a priest seated in my appointed seat of authority.
Yes.
I have a building to complete.
Good.
It has a certain amount on it. I have certificates from contractors pushing me.
Good.
And I need money.
All right.
What do I do? And I have been offered this money.
So I begin with that was poor planning.
Okay.
That's where I start. Why put together? The Bible is clear. Do not start an enterprise without first counting the cost.
Okay.
And the cost is not just money. The cost is whose money. The cost is what processes. So there should have been a projected clarity. Live according to your size. If this is the size of my congregation, we are only X number of people. Why are we building a cathedral? What is the focus point? Where are we going with that? And then suddenly, we have to either put major pressure on the people, and when we've drained them and they have nothing more, we now begin to accept the politician. Now, there's nothing like free money. I always say, if you're being offered something for free, you are the product. That's the reality. You're the one being bought. It may look like it is free. It is not. Because why is it? Assume that these are generous givers. Why can't they just send it to the bank account?
Okay. So
why is it necessary to be public about it?
What are the immoral things?
Yes.
Is it the amount? If I don't know the amount, what do I do? I mean, how do I prosecute the Harambe space? And I have been in this space before myself, where I invited people. I didn't know what they were going to give. I explained the magnitude of the project, and money came, and I thought, oh my goodness, where could that have possibly been earned from? You know, so what do I do?
This is the reality. I'll give you a straightforward scenario, personal. I'm on record within my own community of somebody bringing a big sum of money, and we sit them down and say, I know you. I've worked with you. You have to walk me through the process at which you arrived at this amount of money. Just show me. It's
All right.
easy. Just show me. You're able to say, look, this is what I did, this is how I purchased, this is how I made it, because it's not a given that the money has shown up.
Okay.
I need to prosecute it. When it is, all of us have a red flag.
So you return it?
I returned it. I told them to take it away. We
Where?
are not going to accept it. Because this is, if we are going to, why is that important? One, pastors, your congregation know the givers sometimes better than you.
Okay.
And the minute you accept that amount of money, they judge you because they know. If you can't discern this, then you're not, I can't trust you with my soul. If you can't discern such a person.
It becomes a soul matter.
Exactly.
Not a concrete matter.
It's not a concrete matter. And
Dr.
that's what
Njoya.
the issue is.
Did you ever handle a Harambee situation?
No, I was saved from Harambee before even I was saved. I've never done Harambee. All for 57 years in my ministry, I've never done Harambee.
What's your take?
My take is that Harambee is bribery. It is a sin. And you are really hijacking this bit by taking it from the church to a church project. Mm-hmm. And if Jesus' blood is not enough to save the church from that kind of bribery and corruption, the church might as well be in hell, not here in Kenya. So it is wasting our time because nobody accepts the word Harambee unless he is accepting bribery. You understand?
I hear you.
Nobody accepts the word donations, gifts from a politician or from someone else seeking something else unless he is being bribed to reciprocate by equally being corrupt. Mm-hmm. You cannot reciprocate by justice or human rights. You are selling out to the people who you are building the building. You know, the St. Peter's Basilica was built by crusaders.
Okay.
You know, the crusades, and if you don't want to go to and die redeeming the Israel from the Arabs and the Muslims, you have to offer indulgences. Mm-hmm. You have to pay.
Yes.
By other. So I'm saying the church has resorted to corruption and bribery in order to build construction, not to build the church. The buildings.
And not people.
Are not people. They are not the church. The church is the body of Christ.
What does
and if the church ceases to be a body of Christ, becomes a development project of some pastors and bishops, then those bishops might be as well be in hell today, not tomorrow.
What does the church do if the church wants to put?
That's not the church you are talking about. You are talking about a project of some bishops. You are talking about a project, the church having become perverted into a project, into projects of building hostels, building projects for making money, projects going into debt to build profitable enterprises, buildings. That's not church. You are saying a project, an organ of the market, not an organ, the body of Christ. The church has become, I repeat, an organ and the arm of the market.
Okay.
And as the arm of the market, you can call it. You cannot remove me from there. When I got saved, I became the body of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I thought Kenya was given independence as a continuity and a profitability of the British overseas market. Now we are what? A continuity of the same market, not a church.
What does the church do to develop?
It should not develop. Because if people are believers and anything, they are going to build their house, buy their own bread for Holy Communion, or they are going to commit and dedicate themselves to doing what.
So believers should be encouraged to give out of their devotion to Christ.
Not give work for their own God. Okay. They should commit themselves to doing what God has called them to do. If they are not called to do anything, they should not be bribed to be Christians by politicians. Jesus died and his death was enough to redeem us without having to be bribed to become Christians.
Okay.
Why should I be paid to be a Christian?
Okay.
By a politician?
Yes, I believe
Charles, yes.
that, like, let's separate the church building, organization, structure from the people called the church. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to develop the people, that's an entirely different process. because you can build schools and develop them, and that makes sense. You can,
how do you do that?
You can have vocational facilities, but those things by themselves, if they're able to do that, can self-fund. Again, they do not depend on the very people to carry them. This is the idea. If we are serious about moving something forward, it's being able to take the economies that come into our hands. In other words, when I look at the balance sheet, I should be able to say, X amount may have come in, but look at how many lives were transformed by this. Then there is a value. But when the lives are diminishing, but the projects are increasing, then there is a problem.
Okay. So the model the two of you are suggesting, Dr. Njoya and Pastor Charles, is first we abandon this common model and thinking, that we stop Harambes and we stop this general development of building structures for the church, because it opens us up to corruption.
Yeah, it's the same as the building fund.
Hard sell, but yes, there it goes.
Yes.
Now, secondly, how do you suggest that the church should move forward if it wants to put up structures?
I don't want to borrow. I lived in America for 1.5 years. Only 4 states in America haven't been. I have not seen Harambee for churches. People build their own churches. Kenya is a phenomenon of its own. It is a bribery. We are bribed by we are bribed.
Okay.
The Kenyatta is the one who started the bribery of voters by Harambee. And the church became part of the voters for Kenyatta. And now it is a voter for Ruto.
All right.
So it has to be bribed to be voting for Ruto and to return him.
So we have to stop.
We have to start accepting bribery.
Okay. And then what do we do? What does the church do? Because that's the question.
Just period to
first, I think
to book a brand of church for cleansing.
Let's ask a number of questions.
Okay.
Like, to what end? I think outcomes always determine the process.
All right.
As opposed to us just looking at because many times we get a two-sided problem, and this is historical. On the one side, if the leadership looks at, we want to develop A, and we need to get X amount of money to do it, it opens the door, number one, for certain people to step in and influence because they have means. Which means, to begin with, just by virtue of them supporting what you're doing, they will manipulate your process anyway. So there will be a sense in which you can no longer hear God against your donors. Okay. Because then you could lose the very project that they gave you. Okay. So we're not saying that there isn't an economic model in the kingdom, but the economic model in the kingdom is a voluntary model, not a processed one. So there can be people who've benefited from God and genuinely have made their money and so on. And that's a model in those nations who feel by themselves that they want to be part of something greater, and they can come in and say, how can we support you? So it's not a burden at all. It's actually generosity that's building that, and there are no strings attached. I recently came from the Czech Republic and met a group of people like that. They call themselves kingdom givers. They seek God on projects that can be given to, no strings attached. No strings attached, no manipulation, no pressure.
All right.
And those and they do their due diligence, and they make sure it is beneficial to society.
Okay. Let me then bring us to another part of our conversation. Is it wrong to engage with politicians, and what are the terms of engagement?
Okay, I said in the beginning, I'm very political. I'm a political animal. That's what is.
Can we classify you as a politician?
No, that's what I'm saying. That is practitioner. I'm not a practitioner of politics.
But you are an activist.
Jesus was a healer, but he never became like a medical doctor.
Yes.
He was not a practitioner of medicine. We engage by being what Christ said the Spirit does. When we are saved, that's very abstract. We practitioner and exhibit and show we are saved by being good, kind, generous, practical values. Practical values from moral principles and moral values. We show it and practically. And the question that he said, you must bear fruits consistent with what you believe. If I help a poor person, I'm bearing, it's not bribing or buying that poor or making myself popular for votes. I am helping people in order to show the fruits of my salvation.
Okay.
Okay, I'm practically, I'm not bribing or buying. People who help others don't even know where their aid is going. It can go to where there is disaster.
Yes.
You can give the money when there's an earthquake in a country you have never been. True. Because you are humanistic. Humanitarianism is the product, is the result of being Christian. Okay. And I'm saying, if you are a humanitarian, be humanitarian. But in Kenya, in 1977, I lost this finger, and this one, and this one, and the body, and this bone here. Because in the morning, on Labor Day, I preached, Harabe is the ideology of the Kikuyu middle class for buying the people. When Jesus Christ healed a woman, and he healed the people, and they came back to thank him, no. He said, no, go. He didn't call anybody to become his disciple. He didn't want indebtedness. Indebtedness is slavery. Jesus did not call anybody indebted to him. He won't call people who, if they suffered, they did not say, they could not blame Christ and say, Christ tricked me, or they had committed themselves to the kingdom of God. So I'm saying, any indebtedness is slavery, it's a sin. Harambe makes people indebted to the donor, to the giver. We are buying people's votes. So I'm saying a church becomes from the one who gives them the greatest amount of harambe. You get me?
Yeah.
So in that way, we are indebted not to God, not to our own gifts of God or labor. We become indebted to the donors. Okay. So let me put, it's even foreign aid. Now we have, why do we have this trillion debt? What is forcing our children to go to the streets? Because we are indebted. We are indebted to... We
became slaves to
We are slaves to the donor. I don't want the church to remain a slave. I want here and now to declare church free from slavery. From slavery, from indebtedness.
Okay. How do we engage politicians? How do we engage politicians?
Let's begin by this. First of all,
because they're in our pews.
Yeah, let's not put the cart.
Let's
put the cart before the horse.
Yes.
The kingdom came before politics came, and we cannot allow politics to set the narrative for the kingdom to line up to.
Wonderful.
We cannot allow that. It's the other way around.
Right.
It is the politics that should line up to the kingdom.
Okay.
And how do we engage? It is time, as these young people are coming up, for us within our communities, instead of trying to clean up the Pharisees in our midst, instead of trying to fix the politician who's, by cleaning him out.
Congratulations for saying that. Thank you.
But by trying to clean them up, we are just going to repurpose them. So it's time to raise a new political class that is aligned to the kingdom and let them step into those places and bring value. That's what we're really looking for. We are not trying to fix the broken. We want a new.
So we lead the politicians.
Yes, they're supposed to take direction, not give it. That's where we've gone wrong. We've allowed them to give it. When you brought a few shillings, then you give him your pulpit. He's giving direction. He's giving and who ordained him? Who gave him the right to stand there? His money? We have it wrong. Even the late Moi, with all his political machinations, had the decency never to speak in a church. By choice, not because he was stopped. It's because somewhere along the line he had a fear of God. And that is the difference. So we cannot cede that same pulpit. I have never seen politicians. In fact, when I'm in facilities and meetings and events, sometimes they say, all the pastors who are here stand up. I don't. This is my reasoning. Why aren't you telling the plumbers to stand up? Why are you telling the cooks to stand up?
Wonderful.
We are not flower girls to stand up and be acknowledged,
so we must
wave at everybody and sit down.
We must create egalitarian safe space.
Yes, because I've not seen the politician cede his moment and say, there's Pastor so-and-so here, please come and say something.
Yes.
That tells you something. They don't think you have anything to say in their space, but they think they have something to say in your space. No, something's out of order. And so this is where we need to go. We need to take back our dignity, our position, and be the conscience of the nation, not the enablers of politicians.
Well put. Okay, I'm going to start taking your final comments. Dr. Njoya.
Yes. Anytime I go to a new church or church I have not been, I'm treated like a flower girl.
You have this hero status.
I'm told to stand up at plumbers,
Yes.
drivers.
I hope you will not refuse to stand. Knowing you.
It will be mannerless, but I'll now be conscious that I'm treated like a flower
because if they want to
so it's
recognize
good that I
you.
came here to learn that lesson. Again, I really want to say to the audience and to the viewers, thank you very much for listening to us, because what we are communicating is that if we want a system to work for the youth, to have jobs and not become jobless, because they are not seeking for jobs, they are looking for relevance, and they are looking for belonging to this country. If you want to help in that, please re-establish the governance, the system of governance which you entrust as your agent to effect that. Our system of governance now is ineffective because it is dead. So I would like you to ensure that we revive the IBC. We tell some are saying Ruto must go, and he cannot stay. In fact, he has already known the meaning. If you want to stay, because we are not telling them that you cannot study for election, even more we didn't tell him. We told him to go in a way, in that capacity, as the more he was oppressing us. But but we don't say that you are excluded from being Kenyan. He must go, and where he is being told to go, it is to stop. It is stop administering a system of corruption, of no accountability, and to know that he is responsible for opening space for young people, not to be simply on the street, to be working. As we were working during our time, we are leaving work to go to the streets. Now these people want to go to jobs. They are alienated from the job market. We want the job market to be less corrupted, not to be corrupted at all even, so that the young people can enter it with clean hearts.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. And thank you for coming.
Yes.
Charles.
Yes. I'd like to say this. Anyone who neglects history said is doomed to repeat it. And so I would like to say this to the Gen Zs. There are still 7,000 who have not bowed their knee to bow. It is not every minister that is in bed with what is going on. It is not the church at large is not the same. So it's time to do your due diligence. Find a few. Stand on the shoulders of those who have stood for something. They exist. And let's highlight them. Let's bring them out. Take a conversation like today. Share it widely in your spaces to realize that not every clergy and everybody is what you think they are. There is a whole generation that has walked the walk you're walking today. And they have experienced things. People like Reverend Njoya here have experienced it. They've been in the street like you. You cannot tell him he doesn't understand.
So it's just like flipping that argument and saying every Gen Z is a looter. That's what they are doing to the church.
Yes, it's not true. Yeah, we don't believe it. And as you can see, we have clearly said you were infiltrated in the street. We are not foolish. We are not blind. We've seen movements and we can tell when it's being infiltrated. Yes. We can tell when somebody else is trying to hijack it.
Yes.
So what we say is that this is the time to start articulating. And I say, get your low-hanging fruits, focus. Get this solved, get that solved. And to the clergy, it's time to stand and be counted. It's time to be clear. Gen Z will not do the discernment for you. It is you who will have to speak out for them to say, at least we hear that voice. At least we hear that voice. So that a time will come, and this is the prophetic or the picture I'd like to give you. Gen Z, at this moment, you're like a story I once heard of somebody who arrives at an accident scene. And you find somebody, you find an injured person, and you find somebody bending over the person. And you tell the person, excuse me, I'm in first aid. I know how to do this. And you continue doing what you're doing, and then the person you just pulled away whispers to you and says, when it comes to the place where you call the doctor, I'm already here. So in other words, There are people who already have the very keys that you want to implement to get what you want. Don't overlook them. Don't overlook them. In this leaderless, because if you stay leaderless too long, you'll become rudderless. And that is a tricky place to be. And we're not talking for you to look for a leader to lead you. We're talking ask you to look for leadership on the things you want to articulate.
Put structures.
Yes, entirely different thing.
Thank you, Reverend Charles Opiyo.
Yes.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Timothy Njoya. We thank you all for your time and for adding value in this space. Yes. Viewers, we have been watching Crosstalk, the church on trial. The church having been accused of being recluse and not engaging. How should we engage? I hope this has helped you form some thoughts, get some understanding, get perspective that the church is not asleep. And the church is not homogeneous. There are people in the church who are rogue, but there are many who are not. May God bless you as you engage. If you're out there and you're a church leader, engage in the right way. If you're out there and you're a Gen Z, learn how to engage with the church and how to view the church with the proper perspective. God bless you. See you next week.